1. The chilling effect, Trump's settlements with CBS and ABC. 2. Edward R. Murrow's legacy and CBS's fall from grace. 3. Colbert's bold take on Paramount settlement with Trump. 4. Colbert and Stewart take a stand against Paramount, the late-night showdown. 1. The chilling effect, Trump's settlements with CBS and ABC. The recent settlements between ABC and CBS with Donald Trump signal a troubling trend where the commander-in-chief may begin to act as the editor-in-chief, raising serious concerns about media independence and accountability. This anticipated compromise was not unexpected. For several months, there had been swirling rumors regarding Paramount's eventual agreement to settle a lawsuit deemed largely frivolous by many. This lawsuit was initiated by President Trump in response to editorial choices made during a CBS interview with Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris, scheduled for the 2024 elections. On July 2, 2025, those rumors turned into reality as Paramount's negotiations with Trump's legal representatives concluded with a settlement. Ultimately, CBS's parent company consented to a payment of $16 million, encompassing Trump's legal costs, to support the future Donald Trump library. This decision was made despite numerous media law experts and practicing lawyers asserting that Trump's case lacked substance. Sherry Redstone, Paramount's principal shareholder, ultimately chose to concede to Trump's demands. It's worth noting that Redstone had been attempting to finalize a sale of Paramount to Skydance Media since July 2024, but regulatory hurdles had delayed the transaction. When the Trump administration began in January 2025, the newly appointed Federal Communications Commission, FCC, was under no obligation to approve the transfer of CBS's broadcast licenses without a thorough examination. The FCC, overseen by Republican Chairman Brendan Carr, was keenly aware of the legal entanglements between Trump and CBS. Without a resolution to the lawsuit, the deal between Paramount and Skydance remained precarious. Moving forward, Paramount joined Disney in what appears to be a tacit admission of guilt regarding the journalism produced by their networks. Earlier that same year, Disney had settled a separate lawsuit with ABC News, agreeing to donate $15 million to the future Trump library. This dispute revolved around the language used in referencing the actions leading to Trump's liability in a civil suit brought by Jean Carroll. The implications of these settlements are still uncertain, but many anticipate that they will likely generate a chilling effect within the news divisions of these networks. This chilling effect stems from a trepidation of potential new lawsuits, which could lead to a practice of internal self-censorship among journalists. The fear is that reporters may start hesitating to chase down stories involving the Trump administration, weighed down by the risks associated with litigation. In many respects, Trump seems to have achieved what prior presidents could not: significant influence over how news about his leadership might be portrayed. Historically, presidents have tried to exercise editorial pressure on the media. From Jimmy Carter's attempts to dissuade CBS anchor Walter Cronkite from concluding his broadcasts with updates on American hostages during the Iran crisis to Richard Nixon's threats against media organizations like The Washington Post amid the Watergate scandal, past presidents have sought to control damaging narratives. Yet, in those instances, the broadcast networks maintained their commitment to reporting on these critical issues. Moreover, previous presidents, including Lyndon Johnson, who owned several local TV and radio stations in Texas, publicly expressed discontent with coverage they viewed as unfavorable. Johnson, for instance, often complained to CBS President Frank Stanton about what he saw as bias in the station's reporting on the Vietnam War, allegedly claiming that the network's reports seemed controlled by the Viet Cong. However, none of those earlier administrations secured settlements in the millions from broadcasters for their ethical journalism. While they may have engaged in behind-the-scenes maneuvering to maintain favor, the full ramifications of yielding were typically concealed from public scrutiny, allowing the networks to preserve some semblance of credibility. John Dickerson, the anchor of CBS Evening News, articulated the new dilemma posed by the settlement when he stated, "Can you hold power to account when you've paid it millions? Can an audience trust you when it thinks you've traded away that trust?" Dickerson further noted that the resolution to this situation lies in the hands of the audience. There is a prevailing adage among television journalists: "You're only as good as your last show." As Skydance Media prepares to take control of Paramount's assets, a transition in CBS programming is on the horizon. Once the broadcast licenses for key stations such as KCBS in Los Angeles and WCBS in New York are officially transferred, the critical question remains: what will be the long-term impact of this corporate capitulation? At this stage, it's premature to pass judgment on the broadcasts of the future. As someone who has studied broadcast journalism and has experience in the field, I advise audiences to evaluate news programs like 60 Minutes and the CBS Evening News, based on the quality of reporting they produce in the coming 3 years, as well as their past record over the last 50 years. This evaluation should also extend to ABC World News Tonight and other ABC News offerings. A significant complication surrounding the deal between Paramount and Skydance has been 60 Minutes' recent investigative achievements that have led to uncomfortable truths for the Trump administration. This scrutiny has only intensified as the show has maintained its reputation for critical reporting on important issues. According to its accomplishments from the first half of 2025, 60 Minutes appears to have upheld its commitment to independent journalism. If viewers desire ethical, unbiased, and professional journalism that holds authority figures accountable, it is imperative for them to support this journalism by tuning into the broadcasts. The real consequences of the settlements will only become clear through future programming, rather than dismissing its potential beforehand. The dedicated journalists at ABC News and CBS News understand the weight of their respective legacies, and they are cognizant of how their ownership has cast doubt upon their professional integrity. As Dickerson stated, they intend to continue to show up for their audience, despite the blemish this controversy may leave on their reputations. I'm inclined to believe that they are driven to prove their credibility and integrity more than we might assume. I remain optimistic that reporters, editors, and producers are not planning to allow Donald Trump to become their de facto editor-in-chief in the upcoming years. However, the only way to truly find out is by actively watching these developments unfold. 2. Edward R. Murrow's legacy and CBS's fall from grace. In a striking critique of his own profession, the iconic CBS journalist Edward R. Murrow delivered a powerful address in 1958, famously known as the "Wires and Lights in a Box" speech. In this presentation, he foresaw the potential pitfalls that could arise when corporate and special interests interfere with the integrity of news reporting. Murrow urged his fellow journalists to approach their work with fairness and composure, especially when tackling contentious issues. He believed that the public values efforts to illuminate rather than agitate, emphasizing that neglecting this crucial duty could reduce broadcasting to mere wires and lights in a box. Fast forward to today, and it is disheartening to witness CBS, the very network that Murrow helped shape, compromise its principles by succumbing to political pressure and agreeing to pay a staggering $16 million to settle a nuisance lawsuit. This settlement, which has raised eyebrows, was made public just before the 4th of July holiday, a strategic move that many interpret as an attempt to bury the news amid the festivities of travel, barbecues, and fireworks. The controversy deepened when CBS's flagship program, 60 Minutes, faced backlash for its handling of an interview with presidential candidate Kamala Harris. The network was accused of employing questionable editing techniques and then failing to adequately explain the situation when pressed for clarification. This misstep led to former President Donald Trump filing a $20 billion lawsuit against CBS, alleging election interference in favor of his political rival. The financial burden of this settlement will ultimately fall on Paramount, CBS's parent company. Interestingly, CBS's announcement regarding the settlement emphasized that no apology was issued, suggesting that the network is willing to part with millions without admitting any wrongdoing. CBS also asserted that the lawsuit was completely without merit, a claim that holds some truth. Journalists enjoy extensive First Amendment protections concerning their broadcasting and editing practices, making it highly unlikely that Trump would have succeeded in court. Yet, despite this legal standing, CBS chose to settle. One possible reason for this decision could be Paramount's desire to smooth relations with the Trump administration ahead of a significant $8.4 billion media merger with Skydance Media, which is currently under scrutiny by the Federal Communications Commission, FCC. Alternatively, CBS may have opted for a settlement to avoid the potential fallout from a more extensive legal battle that could expose uncomfortable truths. Regardless of the rationale, such actions do not absolve a major news organization from the responsibility of defending its rights to a free press. Even after settling with Trump, CBS is still under investigation by the FCC regarding its management of the Harris segment, which complicates the network's position as it attempts to present itself as principled after the settlement. While the $16 million payout may seem trivial compared to the financial capabilities of large media corporations, the implications of CBS's willingness to compromise its First Amendment rights for any sum of money are deeply troubling. Employees at CBS News have expressed their outrage over what they perceive as a betrayal of journalistic integrity. However, these journalists should also reflect on the activist journalism culture they have contributed to, as evidenced by the All Sides Media Bias Chart, which categorizes CBS News as leaning left. There was a time when CBS stood firm against governmental pressures to protect its journalistic rights. In 1972, CBS President Frank Stanton famously resisted a congressional committee's demands for information regarding the network's telecast, selling of the Pentagon, asserting that any government interference would jeopardize investigative journalism. Similarly, CBS once prioritized producing news that informed the public rather than merely generating revenue. In the early 1960s, longtime CBS chairman William Paley encouraged news personnel to pursue ambitious coverage, confidently stating that he had other means, like Jack Benny, to ensure the network's profitability. The legacy of Murrow, Walter Cronkite, and Eric Sevareid established CBS as a trusted media brand, often referred to as the Tiffany Network. However, the current state of CBS raises concerns about its commitment to journalistic principles. A media organization that fails to uphold its values will inevitably face skepticism, regardless of the outcomes of major mergers or financial settlements. As we reflect on these developments, it begs the question, what does it mean for the future of journalism when a once great network like CBS appears to prioritize financial settlements over its foundational principles? Are we witnessing the decline of journalistic integrity in favor of corporate interests? We invite you to share your thoughts and engage in this critical conversation. 3. Colbert's bold take on Paramount settlement with Trump. When it comes to media ethics and integrity, the recent actions of Paramount, a major player in the entertainment industry, have sparked quite a controversy. Stephen Colbert, the beloved late-night host, has boldly criticized his employer for reaching a settlement with former President Donald Trump regarding a lawsuit linked to a 60 Minutes interview. Both Colbert's show and the aforementioned program are part of the CBS network, owned by Paramount, making this dispute particularly interesting. Colbert didn't hold back when addressing the issue, suggesting that this arrangement can be aptly described as a big fat bribe, a term that adds a dramatic flair but also highlights serious concerns about ethics in dealings between a major corporation and a government official. He emphasized that this settlement comes at a time when Paramount's owners are likely trying to secure governmental approval for the sale of their network to Skydance, hinting at a potential conflict of interest. On July 1, it was revealed that Paramount agreed to a settlement that could exceed $30 million to resolve Trump's lawsuit, which claimed that CBS engaged in election interference through its handling of an interview with then-Vice President Kamala Harris. This situation raises important questions about journalistic integrity. During his monologue, Colbert cheekily referenced a fictitious statement from Paramount that conveyed, "You may take our money, but you will never take our dignity. However, we can sell you our dignity for just $16 million. We really need the funds." Such humor underlines the absurdity of the circumstances while also recognizing the gravity of the situation. Trump's lawsuit sought a staggering $20 billion, alleging that CBS misleadingly edited a critical interaction during the interview with Harris. The clip in question showcased Harris answering a question about Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's alleged lack of attentiveness to the Biden administration. Critics of the edited version of the interview felt that Harris's response was both confusing and lacked clarity, which contributed to the scrutiny surrounding CBS's actions. Additionally, evidence has emerged suggesting that some within CBS are alarmed by the settlement, fearing it could set a troubling precedent for media independence. This sentiment was echoed by critics, including members of Congress. For instance, Senator Bernie Sanders expressed his disapproval, labeling the settlement as an extremely dangerous precedent that compromises First Amendment rights and could suggest governmental coercion. Senator Ron Wyden also chimed in, inferring that Paramount's actions could potentially amount to a bribe and even hinted at possible federal repercussions. Colbert's commentary during his show reflects a larger concern among media professionals about the implications of such settlements. While the immediate context involves Paramount and Trump's lawsuit, this incident underscores a recurring tension between corporate interests and journalistic integrity, prompting many to wonder, at what point does financial gain undermine the ethical responsibilities of a media company? As the public continues to grapple with these issues, many may find themselves questioning whether the motivations behind media decisions are driven by journalistic values or by financial pressures. Are we witnessing a troubling shift in how news organizations operate? What do you think? Should major corporations ever settle such lawsuits, or does that compromise their integrity? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. 4. Colbert and Stewart take a stand against Paramount, the late-night showdown. Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart stand firm against Paramount, making it clear they won't be silenced. In a bold display of defiance, two of Paramount Global's most prominent figures, Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart, have made it abundantly clear that they will not shy away from speaking their minds, even as the company prepares for a change in ownership that may be wary of political repercussions from a sensitive president. Colbert, returning from a break sporting a new mustache and a fresh attitude, took aim at Paramount during his show, criticizing the company's recent $16 million settlement with President Donald Trump regarding a segment on Kamala Harris aired on 60 Minutes. He labeled the payment a big fat bribe intended to eliminate what he described as a nuisance lawsuit. Stewart echoed Colbert's sentiments with equal fervor on his recent episode, questioning why Paramount chose not to contest the lawsuit. He humorously remarked to former 60 Minutes correspondent Steve Kroft, who referred to the payment to Trump as a shakedown, saying, "I'm obviously not a lawyer, but I did watch Goodfellas. That sounds illegal." These remarks come in light of a recent report from Status.news, which speculated that the shows hosted by Colbert and Stewart might be at risk or face pressure following the anticipated merger between Paramount and Skydance Media. There are concerns about whether the new owners, billionaire Larry Ellison and his son David, would be willing to handle the potential backlash from such politically charged programming. However, Colbert addressed the situation head-on during his Monday show, humorously pointing to his new mustache and quipping, "How are they going to pressure Stephen Colbert, if they can't find him?" While CBS opted not to comment, it is evident that the landscape of late-night television is undergoing significant changes. CBS has already made cuts, including the cancellation of the comedy game show, After Midnight, in March, which aired after Colbert's program. Other late-night shows, like NBC's Seth Meyers, have also made cost-cutting decisions, such as eliminating their house band last year. A source within the network noted that late-night hosts are among the most recognizable and celebrated personalities on their networks, even if their shows are no longer the financial powerhouses they once were. Colbert remains a key figure for CBS and Paramount, extending his influence beyond his own show to hosting award ceremonies and leaving a significant cultural impact. Speculation surrounds whether he will choose to renew his contract when it expires at the end of next year, especially after signing his last extension in 2023. If the network were to sever ties with him, particularly in the current climate, it could lead to a public relations crisis. Stewart, who returned to Comedy Central in early 2024 after a successful Emmy-winning stint, has a dedicated fan base, but his future remains uncertain. He previously left The Daily Show and returned to host just one day a week, while mentoring new talent to ensure the franchise's longevity. This strategy has proven effective, as many notable alumni, including Colbert, John Oliver, Steve Carell, Trevor Noah, Jessica Williams, and Samantha Bee, have emerged from his guidance. In late October, Stewart extended his Daily Show contract through 2025, but given his diverse interests, which include political activism and directing, it is unclear if he will remain beyond that, especially if he encounters management interference, which could provide the new owners with an easy exit. There is a long-standing tradition of late-night hosts asserting their independence by challenging their superiors, not just through their words. During the last writers' strike, Colbert, Myers, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, and John Oliver collaborated to create a podcast titled Strike Force 5 to show solidarity with writers and raise funds for their support. If Skydance believes they can simply move past any tensions involving Trump and CBS due to the president's relationship with CEO David Ellison and his father, Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, who has received praise from Trump, the hosts have made their stance unmistakably clear. It is also evident that Trump, emboldened by his successes in compelling corporate compliance, will exert pressure on media outlets as far as the new management allows. While late-night television may not be the primary focus for the Ellisons upon their official takeover, with a movie division, streaming service, cable networks, and CBS News to manage, it remains an area with significant potential to draw them into the limelight, whether they like it or not. Just ask Sherry Redstone for a glimpse of what that experience entails.